Hi, and welcome to another QBD Podcast. My name's Rich, and today we're talking all things content. We've got our head of content, John, with us, and we're going to be going through what is content and why is it so important to you. We'll also be getting John's top tips on the best ways to create content. We'll be looking at long content and short content and which one is best. And yes, we will be talking about AI, and I'll be asking John how it can be best used for creating content. So, hi John, thanks for being with us today. Do you just want to start by telling us a bit more about yourself and your role at QBD?
Yeah, thanks Rich, good to be here. So, I'm head of content at QBD. My journey to it's sort of quite a strange one really. So I'm actually a journalist by trade. So I did that for many years before moving into PR, financial services, business support, that sort of thing. So it gave me a good grounding in the way that content works from a storytelling perspective. Then I spent a bit of time working for an agency on the web content side. So that gave me a good grounding in SEO. And at QBD, I bring both sides of it together. So it's all about helping the businesses that we work with to tell their stories, but do it in such a way that it's going to get found by the search engines and it does what it needs to do from a technical perspective as well as from a creative perspective.
Yeah, and so what's the typical ways you help clients with what you do?
It's broad brush really. Anything written content related, sort of my bag really. But it's not just about the words that we write. So we obviously write a lot of website pages and website content for clients. We also do lots of blogs that they can use on social media and that sort of thing. So that's one side of it, the actual writing. But I think the other side of it is really getting to understand the businesses, getting them to understand the businesses as well, and what makes them unique, what makes them stand out in their market, what makes them special.
So typically, how do you help clients at QBD?
I think with all the clients that we work with, we write content for them. So whether it's for their actual website or whether it's for the blogs, we produce that content for them. But what we do is a lot more strategic than that as well. So we spend a lot of time in the early days working with the clients to understand what it is that they do, what it is that makes them stand out, why they do what they do. And then we work closely with them to make sure that whatever we write for them, all that sort of stuff's coming out. So it's almost getting them to think about content in a strategic way rather than just pumping out blogs or social media content or whatever it is for the sake of it. It's like, why are you doing it? What story are you trying to sell? And then telling that story for them. But obviously the one thing that we do very well is from the technical point of view, we make sure that the storytelling resonates with their audience, with the human audience, but then it's backed by the SEO work that it needs to do to rank highly in the search engines as well.
Yeah, that research thing is something I'm always very interested in. We'll come back to that later. I'm also fascinated about the range of clients that you have and the different things you have to write to. I always think you must be a brilliant quiz team member because you must know so many different random things. What's the kind of quirky extremes of kind of clients and content that you've written in the past? Yeah,
I think it's a bit of a trait for content writers really. We're a jack of all trades, master of none. So yeah, it's very diverse. I've done everything from tights to double glazing windows and everything in between. But I think the one thing that always amazes me about clients and content is that it can be the dullest, drabbest subject imaginable. It might be, I'm not picking on accountants per se or estate agents, but I've written for both of those in the past, and they're not very sexy subjects to write about, but you normally find the businesses that we work with and the people that are working in those sectors, they are doing really interesting, innovative things, and it's my job as a content writer to sort of get to understand the business and bring those interesting things out, because that's the point of difference and that's what sets them apart from everyone else in their industry.
Yeah, and I suppose taking it back a step slightly in terms of what is content and why is it so important to businesses?
I think today, content's everything in the internet age. It's content that makes up. Without content, there wouldn't be Google, there wouldn't be the internet. And there's I don't know how many million gigabytes of content gets pumped out every day, but it's a hell of a lot. So the importance for businesses is making sure that they're putting out the right type of content that's telling the right type of stories, and they're writing it for the right type of audience as well. I think one of the things that we do with a lot of clients is to get an understanding of who their ideal customers are, whereabouts they hang out online, the type of content that they like to consume, the type of sort of messaging that they respond to, and then bringing that out, because it's one thing thing just pumping a blog out for the sake of it. It's another thing doing it in a way that resonates with the business and will resonate with their audience as well. So that's what it's all about. It's you know, we live in a content-driven world now. It's everywhere. So how do you make your content stand out is what we try to do for the clients that we work with. I think for me as well, when you boil it right down, you know, you look at a website or a web page, you know, it's just words and pictures. You know, you can pretty it up with the navigation and everything else, but people are on there to see the words and the pictures. So once you take the pictures out of the equation, you know, it's the words on there that are really important. And you're looking to attract two different audiences as well with that. So you're obviously looking at attracting the readers that are on the page and they want to find out more about your business. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is it's got to be optimized. The content's got to be optimized well enough so the search engines will actually find it in the first place and then recommend it to your ideal audience. And the other thing I'd add to that as well is I think with the internet the way that it is today, it's more easy. It's as easy as it's ever been to find your own audience now, you know. Sort of going back, you know, even 10 years, you know, you still had to do PR, you still had to be in the newspapers, lots of advertising, all that sort of stuff. With the internet now and with social media now, you've got a platform, if you're pushing the right content out to reach your audience, to reach your tribe and bring them on this journey with you. So that's why content's so important. And the way that you write content in a way that's authentic to your business is so important as well.
Yeah, and I think it's the process that you go through to find, you said, the right content for the right audience. It's something that I've always been interested in because I've seen a lot of other marketing copywriters that will just say, well, tell me what you want to write about and I'll write about it. That journey and that process that you go through of the research, so you know kind of what your target audience would be looking through. You know, what's the process that you go through to get that content optimized for Google?
Yeah, I think for me, it's, you know, this is where my journalistic instincts and my background come into play really, because I'm always, you know, I think what we do is we always approach it from the storytelling angle. So for me, it's about sitting down with the client, getting under the skin of the business, finding out what it is that makes them unique, what makes them special, and why people go to them as well. Why do people choose them? And then try to bring all that out in the content. Because if we can understand the business and we can understand the type of people that they're trying to connect with, you know, it's our job then to connect those two dots and push it out in the right way. But on top of that, you know, it's also about making sure the content's optimized so that when Google crawls the page, it knows exactly what you're trying to say on that page. It's what this page is about, you know, the subject, who it's for, and it will start recommending those results to the people that you're hopefully looking for.
And I know one of the things that you're very passionate about is the tone of voice and how you start with a client and establishing their tone of voice. What does that entail?
Yeah, so again, that goes back to the initial conversation that we have with the client, really, just to find out about their business. And it's not necessarily about what they do, you know, because every business can tell you what they do, you know. And I think in a crowded marketplace, you know, if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, you know, it's very difficult to stand out. I think what I've found over the years is people tend to respond more to why you do it, you know. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? Why do you do things a certain way? What benefits does that have for the reader? What pain points do you solve for the customer? And if we can get a good handle on that and start to bring that out in the content, that is what's going to help that client stand out in front of their audience compared to all the competitors.
And how do you get that out of somebody? How do you kind of go and do that fact finding? What's the process?
We do like a bit of a discovery session at QBD. So we'll sit down and have an in-depth, honest and frank conversation with every client, just to, you know, probe them a bit about the history, about how they started and how they got to where they got to, where they want to go in the next couple of years, but then really drill down into, you know, what it is that they do, who it is that they serve, and like I said earlier, you know, the problems and the pain points that they're looking to solve. And then so that can be quite an in-depth conversation for the client. You know, these sessions, they can take up to a couple of hours. And then off the back of that, we'll pull all that together into a tone of voice document, which will then serve as the guideline for whatever work we're going to do for them, whether it's blogs, whether it's rewriting the website. And we work closely with the design team there, because often some of the information that we pull out in that session will influence the way that the website might look and feel. If they're having a rebrand done or they're having a logo, it might influence the design on that. It's just getting under the skin of the business really and finding out what it is that makes them tick, what they're all about, what they stand for, and who they're looking to attract as well.
And I suppose you mentioned it is an actual document that you present back to the clients when you've gone through that discovery session. That must help them sometimes even position where they are with their overall kind of branding and messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that we do here at QBD, it's very strategic. So it's all about sort of how does this fit into their business plans and their objectives? How's it going to help them to grow? And we've found a lot in these sessions with clients that it gets them thinking a bit differently about the business and about the customers that they serve, and what is it that they actually do. What is it that makes them unique and special? And what is it sometimes that they're not saying in the current content that they want to say? It's all about sort of like going in depth and bringing all that out into the open so that we can look at it. We'll often challenge clients on the thinking on some things, and then hopefully by the end of it, when we present that document back, they'll look at it and they'll say, yeah, you've nailed it. That's us. That's what we want to be doing. And then we're off and running with the content.
Once we've got a tone of voice guide in place for a client, how can they take that document forwards?
Yeah, so it's very much a journey, and the tone of voice guide is the first stage of that journey really. We've defined who the customers are and how they want to communicate with them and what the message is. So then it's just carrying it across in all the content that we do from them. From day one, the first blog that we do for them, it's going to be consistent with the one that we do for them 3 months down the line when we've got 40 articles on the website. And if they all sound the same, if they all talk in the same way, communicate the same message in the same way of speaking, and if the company then adapts that way of speaking into its other communication channels as well, it's just got that consistent feel that potential customers are going to be used to whenever they come across that company, and hopefully they're going to start that relationship as the tone of voice journey develops. Yeah, and as I alluded to earlier as well, we often find that the tone of voice will be part of the overall brand. I work very closely with the design team here at QBD, and there's a lot of crossover between what they do on the branding side and what we do on the tone of voice side that inform each other, so that everything's coherent, so that whenever anyone comes across that business online at whatever touch point it is, they know instantly that they're going to be communicated to in a certain way.
Something that we when we're helping clients, particularly with the social media nowadays, is there's a lot of talk around long copy and short copy content. What's your kind of take on it? Where do you see the differences and the benefits in long copy and short copy?
So I think obviously there's a place for both, and depending on what channel and what platform you're using, you couldn't go putting long copy content onto X or Twitter, for example. That short form has its place, but I think you'd be surprised by just how well received long copy content, if it is well written, is. Because I think there's a perception these days with people scrolling on the smartphones and stuff that attention spans are small and they only want to sort of see the headlines and stuff like that. But what we've actually found is long copy content works better from an SEO perspective because there's more words there, so there's more for the search engines to get the teeth into and rank. So it's important from that perspective. But also, if your audience is looking for information, if they're looking to be educated about something, if you've got a piece of long copy content on your website that goes in depth about that subject, people will read it. And we've seen it through our own analytics on some clients' accounts where some of the best read pages on their websites, there'll be blogs, and the readers, or the average dwell time will be 5 or 6 minutes on that page, which tells its own story.
Shows that they're interested.
Yeah, and there's that great quote that's been knocking around for years about advertising, that people read what they're interested in, and sometimes it's an ad. And the same goes for web pages and blogs and social media posts. If it's well written and if it's interested, then it will find an audience.
Something that we're doing a lot more at the moment is pillar content, which I'm going to get your thoughts on and get a bit more on. But just on that kind of slightly wider thing about long copy content, how long is long copy? Like, what classifies as long copy when you say about writing a blog or something? What sort of the number of words are we talking? I
think when I first started working for an agency, which we're going back about 10 years now, I think you could get away with writing a 550, 600 word blog. and that would still get ranked today, but we normally write blogs to about 1,200 words now. So round about that is the standard. But if you're talking about long form copy, you're probably going up to 2,500, 3,000 words, even 4,000 words, going in depth on a subject. And what that's doing, it's giving you the chance to demonstrate your expertise to your audience, that you know about that particular subject, and you know about you've got in-depth knowledge about what you're talking about. But B, it's giving the search engines more meat to get the teeth into, really, because you're writing 4,000 words on a relevant subject, so it's going to be able to optimize that a lot better and throw it up in the search results.
And that's where we get into pillar content.
So pillar content, that's an area of your website that will be devoted in detail to an in-depth subject. So it might be a service area if you're a service-based business. It might be a particular product if you're a manufacturer. And you'll have a big chunk of content on your website specifically about that product or service and what you're talking about. But what that'll do will underpin the other things that you're doing on your website. So you might have a big chunk of pillar content on a page, on a landing page for your website, but then that might feed off into 2 or 3 different blogs about various aspects of that topic, which would then feed your social media, it'll feed your email, it'll feed into other pages on your website and other sections. Everything will point back to the pillar. And the whole point is that Google will look at that and look at your website and the way it all links together, and you'll start to build authority in that area. So say if it's about, I don't know, if you're a mortgage advisor, so you're doing something on fixed rate mortgages, the more content you can build and the more little different angles you can explore about fixed rate mortgages that all point back to that section will hopefully get you recognised as an authority in that area. And I know we're going to talk a bit about the importance of authority and about experience and expertise, and particularly in Google's eyes. It's all a good way of building that up and demonstrating to Google that you are an authority in that area and you know what you're talking about. This content's credible, so it's going to recommend it to the people that you're looking to get in front of.
And I'm guessing in order to do that piece of work, that really in-depth, deep piece of work, it's 3, 4, 5,000 word piece of content on the website, it comes back to the importance of the research.
Yeah,
I'm guessing, and getting addressing the right questions.
Absolutely. Because, at the end of the day, as I said earlier, jack of all trades, master of none. So the person that you're writing for, they're always going to have all that expert knowledge, and that sort of stuff. So my job as a copywriter is to get as much of that as possible from the client so that I can put it into that content, doubled with the research that I do about various topics, whatever I'm writing about. To bring all that through, because at the end of the day we're writing for clients, so it's their reputation, it's their brand on the line when we do it. So it's got to come across as credible. It's got to be credible research. It's got to be accurate information that people are going to respond to. And the thing that I get most job satisfaction from really is when I present stuff to a client and it just gets signed off straight away. Because I know I've done a good job on it then, done the research on it, and presenting it back to the expert who's saying, yeah, that's right, I agree with that. So.
Once somebody's got a pillar piece of content in place, how can it be used strategically to help them with their marketing? Yeah,
so the way we see pillar marketing really is that the pillar content is at the top of that pyramid. Like that. So it might be, a long form piece of content, a 6,000 word article, something like that. It might be a white paper. It might be a PowerPoint presentation. It might be a podcast or a webinar. That's what sits at the head of the pyramid like that. And then from that, you can broaden the pyramid out. So you might start to do blogs on different areas of what's included in that initial pillar, and then they might broaden out into social media posts or emails. You might do advertorials or paid advertising campaigns around them, and it's all about building different strands from that initial pillar. And what Google will do then, it'll look at it and it'll see that you've got a load of content here, a load of social media posts here, which are feeding into a load of blogs about that content, which is feeding into a couple of big chunky articles about that content, which is finally feeding back up to the top of that pillar. And Google really likes to see that, and that's how you build authority and trust and credibility in your business, because Google will start to see it as something that is a subject matter area expert in whatever area that pillar's talking about.
You mentioned you do a lot of work for a lot of different clients of a range of industries, topics and things. How do you go about doing that research and finding out what their customers are going to be interested in and what's trending, how do you go about getting that information?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things about working for QBD is we do invest in a lot of the latest tools to enable us to do that research. So we're looking for relevant keywords for whatever client we're writing for, and how we can make those into sort of longer tail subjects as well. So it might be about fixed rate mortgages, but there might be different questions that we know people are asking at the moment about fixed rate mortgages, with everything that's going on with interest rates, for example. So we'd look to build that in, and it's just doing our research really, and getting to know the marketplace, and using the tools that we've got at our disposal to sort of hunt out the topics, the questions that Google knows people are asking, because they're the sort of things that it's hungry for content for, and then we can write content to address those questions, and hopefully Google will start to recommend those pieces of content in the results. And I think another side to it as well is answering the questions on behalf of clients that other businesses, are afraid to not go there really. I think one of our values as QBD as a business is that we are bold, and we do ask those challenging questions, and it's a good thing for our clients to sort of address those sort of white elephants in the room as well, through their content, because again, that's what sets them apart.
When we're helping clients generate more leads online, we often talk about helping them demonstrate their EEAT, which is a document that Google have produced. You just want to tell us a bit more about that?
EEAT, it's the guidelines that Google's human content analysts use to verify the results that the algorithms are throwing up. So they're all sort of very important aspects of your content, really. It's looking, basically, Google's telling us that it's looking for content that showcases experience, expertise, authority in the subject area, and that it's trustworthy. It's from a trustworthy source. So they're the four things that we try to hit with every piece of content that we put out there, really. We obviously, one thing that we do as an agency is keep ahead of, or try and keep ahead of, all the latest developments in SEO and what Google are doing. And I think EEAT is sort of its strongest steer yet about the way that it's going with content and what it's looking for in the content that it ranks through its search engines. So.
Yeah, I find that EEAT is a really good guide for businesses, because we said it is Google kind of telling us the sort of things we should be looking to do. So across your social media, how are you demonstrating your experience, your expertise, and your authority? And I know some of the things that you do in particular that we work a lot on together is writing blogs, but then also writing case studies, because the two combined can be quite a good way of demonstrating your EEAT, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that you need to be aware of is that everything online that you do as a business now, it can all contribute towards building some aspect of your EEAT, because Google's across all of it. So that's why tone of voice is so important, because if you've got a consistent tone of voice, if you're putting out consistent messages on all your platforms, and your customers and your audience are interacting with that in a positive way, Google sees all that. So it's going to see you as a trustworthy, credible, authoritative source of information. So it's getting all this as right, but it all starts for me with the E and the E, and the experience and the expertise. If you can demonstrate that in your content, and you can demonstrate that you're an expert and you know what you're talking about, that's the sort of content that Google's going to start ranking higher and higher.
So let's address the elephant in the room, as I've got a content writer here. Talk to me about AI.
So AI, it's here, and it's been with us for 18 months, a couple of years now, and it's amazing to see how quickly it's grown. And I think barely a day goes by in our field where AI doesn't come up in some form or other. So it's here to stay. It's all about embracing it in the right way, using it responsibly. I've always found from AI, from a content perspective, generative AI, is that what it's really good at is it's good at spewing words on a page that you can then work with, really. But it's not going to help you build your EEAT on its own. That's where you need content writer. That's where you need tone of voice to pull it together. And it's a bit like a sculptor, really. AI will give you the rock, but the skill is in chiseling it away and making it into a beautiful Michelangelo type sculpture. And that's where human content writers come in. And that's why human created content, even if AI was used in the content creation process for research and structure and all that sort of stuff, they will never have the edge that a human created piece of content can give you.
I'm guessing because AI can't really demonstrate especially the two E's that you mentioned in EEAT, AI can't demonstrate your experience and your expertise.
Exactly. It can give you the information that you need in some cases to bring those out, obviously, because you can use it to do all your research on an article in a few seconds, really. So it's really good for that sort of thing. But to keep it authentic, you've got to come from the business's perspective. You've got to talk about it from the business's perspective and what it's going to do for their customers as well. And bringing that human element into it is what elevates human content from AI content.
And how can AI support you when you're looking to create content?
So again, I think AI, you have to use it responsibly. I think it's really good for research purposes when you're initially researching a topic, but you need to be mindful that it can make mistakes. There's a lot of horror stories on the internet about AI coming up with some really strange results about things. So, that's where the humanization and the human interaction with that AI content is so vital. You need to fact check it. You need to fact check all the sources and make sure that what you're saying is accurate, because, it is a computer doing it at the end of the day. And the information that you're drawing from might not be accurate in the first place. And I think as AI goes on, and more of that sort of content proliferates, the problem's only going to get worse. So that's why you need to run your eyes over any research that you do, just to make sure that what you're saying is accurate.
What's your view on companies that are using AI to generate lots and lots of content for their website?
Again, without a human interaction afterwards to fact check it and make sure that it's demonstrating EEAT and it's in with tone of voice, it's not going to help you out long term. I think the Google Core update earlier this year, the algorithm update, that saw a lot of websites that just produce AI content at scale and pad the websites out with thousands of pages of AI generated content just to beat Google. They've been punished significantly in the rankings. So that's why having human interaction on AI generated content is so important, just to give it that steer and just to make sure that it's authentic to what the client's looking to say, so that it is always a danger.
So what is it about AI generated content that means it can't meet Google's demands and it can't really help a business?
Yeah, I think it's because it's computer generated. It's not got that empathy that a human writer has, really. And when you couple that with the tone of voice work that we do for clients as well, so we really understand who their customers are and what the pain points are and what they're looking for and what the benefits of that business are to them. AI can't do that. And Google at the moment is really big on helpful content. Are you answering their problems? How are you addressing them? All this sort of stuff. That's what AI is not good at. So it can give you information about a subject, but then you need a human to pull all that together so that you can empathise with the audience.
As we've spoken about, there's lots of tools. The rise of AI is out there to kind of help businesses generate content. Like, where do you see it going? What's the important things to remember when we're using these tools?
Good content's always been good content, and although the sort of the industry and the market shifted quite quickly as well in recent years with all the algorithm updates to Google and the onset of AI and all the other tools that are coming onto the market, so the tactics have changed quite significantly, but the principles of SEO and the principles of content have always remained the same. So it's A, are you talking directly to the audience? B, is it helpful? And C, showcasing your expertise. They're all the good principles. If you're putting those good principles into place, they've never changed. They never will. So as long as you're putting that into your content, you're on the right track. If you're just doing it to game the system and game Google, you might get some short-term gains from that. You might get away with it for a while, but Google will always find a way of catching up and penalising you for it in the long run. So it's just sticking to good SEO principles and good content writing principles. And if you do that, you'll be fine.
So before I let you go, give us some top tips. People that are looking to improve their content on their websites, and what sort of things could you recommend they look to do?
I think first and foremost, it's knowing your audience. So one thing that we do with all our clients really is go deep on who their audience is. So what if they're a business to business, what type of businesses they're looking to deal with, but then who the people are within those businesses as well, so you can get a real clear picture of who you're talking to when you're writing your content. So that's tip number one. Two, I'm a big reader, so I consume a lot of media as well, so I'm always on the lookout for ideas and inspiration. So just fill your brain up with everything, soak everything in, because it all helps when you're sort of trying to think of something that you'll draw on everything that you consume. So that's the second tip. And the third tip is be authentic, so going back to what we were saying about tone of voice earlier, if you know who you are and you know what your message is and what you're trying to communicate, as long as you're authentic and consistent with that, you'll find your audience. It's, as I say, it's easier than ever now to find your audience. And if your content's good enough and it resonates with enough people, they will find you. So it's all about that. I think having an opinion and being bold isn't a bad thing. Saying the things that other people are too scared to say will get you a lot of traction. And I guess the last tip will be, like I said earlier, just follow good practices. So, good content, if it's helpful, is good content, and it will always find a home. It'll always find an audience, So just keep it consistent and be true to yourself, be real to your business, and you'll be fine.
Thanks again to John for joining us today. I hope you found that useful. I certainly did. If you would like to find out more about how your website and business can rank higher in Google and generate more leads, please get in touch. Go to qbd.co.uk.